What's up, y'all? My name is JR, and for those of you who don't already know, I'm a huge movie and TV nerd. If you're new here, I appreciate you taking the time to check out my channel. I hope you'll consider sticking around and joining the film community I'm trying to build here on YouTube. So, in today's video, I'm going to be giving my final thoughts on FX's limited series and reboot, Justified: City Primeval. I told you guys a few months back when I made my first impressions video on this series that I would come back and make another one once the series was over. So, here it is. Now, obviously, this video will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the show yet and you don't want to hear about anything that happens in it, you might want to exit this video right now. And with that being said, no more wasting time, let's get into it. Now, for those of you who don't know, Justified: City Primeval is an American neo-Western crime drama television miniseries developed by showrunners Dave Andron and Michael Denner. The series continues the story from Justified, taking inspiration from the Elmore Leonard novel City Primeval, High Noon in Detroit, and the short story Fire in the Hole. Now, Timothy Olyphant returns to star as Raylan Givens, a deputy U.S. Marshal working and co-parenting his daughter, Willa, with his ex-girlfriend Winona in Miami, who finds himself in Detroit pursuing the Oklahoma wild man, Clement Mansell, who has been eluding the Detroit police force. Now, the show also stars Anjanou Ellis as Carolyn Wilder, Vondi Curtis Hall as Marcus Sweetie Sweeten, Adelaide Clemens as Sandy Stanton, Marin Ireland as Maureen Downey, Victor Williams as Wendell Robinson, Norbert Leo Butts as Norbert Brill, and Boyd Holbrook as Clement Mansell. Now, there was a world premiere for the show that was held on June 1st, 2023 at the 12th annual ATX TV Festival, and the series then premiered on FX on July 18th of 2023, and it's received generally positive reviews from critics. Now, the show currently has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, but a dismal audience score at 46%. It has a Metascore of 79, and that's based on 26 critic reviews on Metacritic, with an equally dismal user score of 4.8 based on only 38 user ratings, so do with that as you will. And finally, it has a 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, and that's based off of almost 15,000 reviews, so not a whole lot. So, as I said in my first impression video a few months back, I'm not typically a fan of reboots, again, because I believe that if you as a filmmaker have done your job right the first time, your story should have ended in a nice, comfortable spot. Comfortable enough, again, for people to walk away from it feeling good about having invested their time in watching it, and that, if that's the case, the only thing you can do by bringing it back is messing it up. I'll also say again that I was pretty happy when I heard the announcement that we were going to get a few more episodes of Deputy Marshal Raylan Givens, because Justified is, again, one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And now that I finally had a chance to watch the 8-episode limited series in its entirety, I have some thoughts. I'll start with what I thought worked well. So first, Timothy Olyphant as Raylan Givens. I mean, he was Raylan Givens. And as I think we all knew he would be. And let's be honest, none of this works without him, right? Now, I thought the story was a pretty good one, all things considered. There were a few good pivot points, which are always good. And by that I mean points where the story can go in one direction or another to kind of keep you guessing a bit. I think that's important throughout the course of a series. Now, I thought the main story arc, that being Raylan's pursuit of Clement Mansell, went almost exactly like I expected it would, pretty much beat for beat. And given the inner beats of the story, I appreciated seeing Winona briefly at the end of the finale. And as finales go, I thought Raylan finally retiring from the Marshal Service tied a nice little bow around his arc, so hopefully we can finally put the character and his story to rest. I thought the writing was solid throughout. Casting was pretty good for the most part, and the acting was great, generally speaking. Now, for what I didn't like about the show. First off, I thought the setup of the story, again, was a bit overly contrived. I mean, a deputy U.S. Marshal in South Florida taking his daughter to a behavioral modification camp and happened to run into two random criminals from Detroit who attempt to carjack him in the process was, again, trying way too hard for me. Personally, I would have much rather had Raylan simply catch the criminals in the commission of a crime in Florida and have the story jump off from there. But again, that's just me. Now, secondly, I didn't think Vivian Oliphant was very good in this show. Bless her heart. I guess I understand the casting, especially if Timothy Oliphant made the case for her, because if nothing else, I mean, she looks like his daughter, right? I mean, one time for nepotism. Third, I didn't like the romance between Raylan and Carolyn Wilder. It didn't feel the least bit genuine. Now, I know Raylan found himself in the beds of a few attractive women throughout the original series, but this situation just really felt forced. It's like the writers got into the writer's room and simply decided that this time Raylan had to fall for a black woman because, I mean, his love life has to be inclusive, doesn't it? And I just didn't appreciate it. And I don't know, the whole thing just felt super cringe, especially because it went on for so long. Honestly, I would have much rather Raylan slept with Maureen Downey. I think that would have made way more sense. Now, I know Maureen was married with 2 kids, but she admitted to Raylan early in the series that she was only pretending to be happy. And let's be honest, it's not like Raylan's never slept with a woman that was taken. And even though, in all honesty, Maureen wasn't quite Raylan's type either, I would have understood that more than what the writers decided to give us. Besides, I think it would have been really interesting to see Raylan have to help the Detroit PD take Maureen into custody when her name was found in Judge Guy's infamous book after having rolled around with her in his hotel bed for half the series. I would have really enjoyed seeing how that played out. And speaking of Maureen Downey, they never really closed her character arc. I mean, did she go down for doing dirt or not? I guess we'll never know. And last but not least, and this was really something that just it really ticked me off. I don't know what in the hell Boyd Crowder had to do with anything that happened in this story. I personally think he was brought back in the last few minutes of the series because deep down, the writers knew that was what made Justified work the first time around. It was largely the relationship between Raylan and Boyd that made Justified a truly great show. And though Boyd Holbrook's Clement Mansell was clearly supposed to be a stand-in for Boyd Crowder, it just wasn't the same. Now, my final thoughts. Justified, again, is one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. But the show worked because the writers knew what they had. Raylan Givens worked because they kept him in Kentucky, dealing with small-town criminals like Boyd Crowder, the Crows, and the Dixie Mafia. He had romantic relationships with beautiful pseudo-Southern women like Ava Crowder and Winona Hawkins. Now, the show may have started in Miami, this is true. It may have ended there, this is also true. And it's true that Raylan did bounce back and forth between Miami and Kentucky a few times throughout the series, but the writers were smart enough to keep him someplace where his cowboy hat wearing, quick-witted, gunslinging ways would be endearing. And in this show, Raylan was truly a fish out of water. His character just didn't fit with the story we were being told about a gun-wielding psychopath and corruption among law enforcement officials in the big city. Now, when I made my first impression video about this show a while back, a lot of you left comments stating that Raylan was not a character in Elmore Leonard's City Primeval novel. Again, I'm still going to admit, still haven't read that book, but I'll take you guys' word for it. So that means FX simply decided to take a character from Leonard's Fire in the Hole and drop him into a story he had no business being included in. And as I watched the series, you could totally tell that despite Oliphant's fine performance, Raylan Givens simply didn't belong. Now, in my first impression video, I gave this show an 85%, or an 8.5 if you're thinking IMDb score. And having watched the show in its entirety now, my final score for the show is a 65%, or a 6.5. Still a serviceable show, but it's not Justified. It just wasn't. Now, I love this character, guys, but I sincerely hope we've seen the last of him. I'd much rather remember the character the way he was in the closing image of the original series, sitting across from Boyd Crowder in a Kentucky prison, a pane of glass between them, recalling that the two of them dug coal together. But what do you guys think? Do you think FX did Deputy Marshal Raylan Givens justice by rebooting the show with City Primeval? Or would you have preferred to remember Raylan as he was in the original series? Let me know in the comments. And for those of you who might be new to the channel, be sure to like and share this video. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I drop a new video. Also, be sure to go and check out themadscreenwriter.com for more television and film reviews and info on my upcoming film projects. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I got screenplays to write. I'll catch y'all on the next video.